So it's Kuzomari here, back with another video, and in this video today, I'm going to be going over how to ink your manga as much like as professional as possible. And just to let you guys know, this is Arms of the Dragon, published by Noir Caesar at noircaesar.com. You can go check them out in the description below. They also have a Facebook page. I'm going to be throwing that link to them in the description below after the video, because I have to put that as my preset. I haven't done that yet. But anyways, without further ado, let's get into this. After I put on some music here. No. Looks like it was playing something else. So let me go here. All right. So first thing I want to say, when you're going to ink your manga, you want to make sure your pen width, especially digitally, but you want to make sure you've got a pen width that you're comfortable with. Most mangas have it to where it's they have a G pen. They normally use a G pen, which roughly has a width about that much on a page. If it's too thick, it'll start looking more cartoony. But yeah, so one thing is, your character line art is normally a little thicker than your background line art, and your character line art, or inking, whatever you want to call it, your background line art is a little thinner and normally has less width variant, so it'd be more of one width than something that could do this. And this helps kind of pull the characters away from the background. I'm going to start inking this real quick. And another thing is that the backgrounds, normally when you look at a manga, if they're around a character, normally the backgrounds don't touch the character exactly. And this helps also separate them from the background a little bit more, so that way when you look at it, your mind, the thickness of the character's lines versus the background lines, that helps separate them from the background, as well as keeping a little bit away from the character will also help separate them slightly. So that helps them look at the characters, which is normally the emotion of the story or series you're working on. I normally have a faster, more sketchy inking style, but I'm going to try to be a little bit more precise with this video. There's a lot of other things that go into making your manga inking look more professional, and that can be well done hatch marks, everything like that. But one thing I have to say that's the biggest help to anything art related, and especially manga, since they're primarily created of lines, other than screen tones and stuff like that. The base, the structure, exactly how your character looks, anatomy and everything. If you have that down and you've got a good style, even the flattest lines won't dull down great constructed anatomy and great constructed style. Because I'm sure everyone is aware that there could be someone who knows how to color or shade really good, but without form, you may be shading a piece of poop. Or you may be screen toning a piece of poop, and it'll still look like a piece of poop. So knowing your anatomy and everything helps a lot with this. But because if you know your anatomy and know all that other good stuff, you'll also know where to put your lines most of the time. And if you find yourself thinking I'm bad at inking and stuff like this, inking is one of those things where as long as, oh no, I started doing this on my sketch layer. I'm just gonna have to turn down the density a lot and then go back over here and then just re-ink over it. Forgot where I was because that distracted me. That was like a scary moment. And as you can tell, this video is in real time because I thought this would be most beneficial for those who are interested in a little bit of inking tutorials to see the real time on how this works. Because if you're watching in time lapse, that's fun and dandy and it goes really fast for you, but you don't get a real feel of how the lines are being produced, how they look, my hand, how fast I actually do it, or how slow I actually go at certain points. Oh, that's what I was saying. But just like with everything in life, inking is one of those things that if you study it and you do it more, you'll get much, much better at it. And by the way, like I said, this is Arms of the Dragon. I am inking here. And this is actually chapter 6. We are well over 100 pages. We're over 100 pages right now, and with this chapter, we'll be well over 100 pages of content. Super awesome. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments section. Since this is live, I'll try to answer some as I go real quick and as I ink and stuff. But I'm not going to answer too many while I'm live streaming because this is also going to go up and I want it to be a smooth video for when it's uploaded for those who get to watch this not live and don't get to answer questions. So or get their questions answered on the spot. It might be a little bit boring for them listening to it, unless they have the same question. But that's why I'm going to try to do both at the same time. Hopefully that's not too loud for you guys. I noticed the music wasn't loud enough in one of my other streams. So, all right, now that I got that bubble done and that done, I'm gonna go back up here and turn this back up. And if you notice, my lines for the sketch out are very sketchy. Very sketchy. And that's something I've been trying to learn how to do, be able to do it more, do my sketch lines more sketchy and get, like, I normally do a really rough sketch, then I do the final sketch, and then I ink. But to try to save time, I've been trying to go directly from the rough sketch to my inking, mostly because I noticed that my pencils that I was doing, the final pencils, ended up looking almost exactly like my inks. And I'm basing it off of a quote that was once said, the best way to draw comics or manga is to learn how to draw with the pen. And if you're wondering a little bit just how to ink, like how to, I noticed when I first started inking, I didn't really think about how to, I had a lot of line width problems. And line width is one thing that can really help with the manga. You don't want something to blow out and be too like thick to thin. You don't want it to be too thick and then thin, because it starts looking really cartoony at that point. You want it to be just thick enough so that way you can get some thick to thin lines, but not too thick. There should be only a little bit of a variant of it. Variant of line width. And just in case anyone's wondering and you don't know what this program is, it is Clip Studio, and I am inking this on the iPad Pro. And just in case some of you don't know why I'm making the lines so poopy on this side, it's because after this line is the cutoff point. This line is a gut, like it might be printed, and then over here, nothing will be printed. So I just kind of did it like that. And remember that sometimes when the thing closest to the camera, the lines typically get to be a little thicker. That goes with backgrounds and stuff as well. And I'm talking about pretty close to the camera, like this guy. You don't want to, just because something's a tiny bit closer, make the lines thicker. But this is to really display the difference between, you know, the foreground and background, or, you know, whatnot. The things closer to the camera. All right, let me see if there's any comments here. Yo, yo, hello there. KLD, and I'm also working on a manga. That's cool. But yours is probably better. Maybe not. Who knows? How about shot? How do you frame a shot? Music volume is perfect. Sweet. How also how rough do you sketch? I sketch pretty darn rough. Like I'm just gonna turn this up right here. I want my sketches to be cleaner. You know, that's the goal, to be able to get the sketch really clean, and actually what it would look like as a final sketch. I want to get to that point with one sketch. That's what I want to get to. But these are pretty rough that I'm inking from. Let's go back down there. Oh, it's a little too light here. Let me see if and what do you mean by how do you frame a shot? If you're talking about like figure out the perspective and everything like that, or deciding what angle to use, stuff like that, that's really something you kind of just have to learn. But there are little techniques and stuff, and kind of some rules, some general rules that I will definitely go in more in depth in other videos when I start doing more tutorials. Ooh, sorry about the dog barking out there. People are freaking crazy. But a general rule to that is that I've learned from mistakes is that you don't want to do too many above angles, honestly. There are some, like when someone's, a lot of time when you zoom out, it's good to zoom out when people are talking and their expressions aren't really too key to the scene, but more so the dialogue. Zooming out really helps with that. It gives it a more manga feel. Just look at some manga and see what I'm talking about. It gives some scenery, some context to what's going on there. Just it kind of builds the environment while they're talking. It gives that also helps mood setting, other than establishing shots, and kind of where the characters are standing to each other. Another thing is keeping a shot. This is the person's body. That's probably bad. Basically, you want to keep the perspective either at head height or a little bit below for normal shots. You want to save anything really cool and over the top, like ant's eye view completely, or bird's eye view completely, or kind of fisheye lens. You want to save those for the impacting moments, the surprised moments. It's also good to have a variation of angles that help your page in general seem a little bit more diverse, a little bit more, it feels real, it feels less stale, you know? There are a lot of amateur looking mangas or comics that fall into the mistake of using the same angle too many times, or they don't. That's one cool thing about zooming out, is because even if you have a close-up of the same angle, same position and everything, if you zoom it out, it almost feels like a different scene, like a different feel, because it's showing so much more. Also gives you a lot more room to put speech bubbles. That's another reason why zooming out is good for talking. Here I didn't zoom out too much for the talking, but zoomed out from him a little bit. But I wanted to see his face based on the script I have. You know, everyone learns things that they kind of want to do in their manga more so than like other shots. But I'm still learning myself. I'm learning new things every day, but I feel like I've definitely gotten a lot better since my first published work. So that's that. But yeah, manga is definitely a whole different beast than if you draw illustrations. If you do only illustrations and you come in trying to draw manga, you're gonna have a really hard time. and there's a lot you have to still learn. And a little tip for if you're inking digitally, I may have mentioned this in some other videos, but for newer people watching this, I actually want this to... for digital inkers, which is, you know, a thing nowadays, so many more people are starting to ink digitally. It's cheaper, it's faster, and in the end, if you feel like it's just not something you want to do, you're eventually going to do it anyways. Because the industry has been rapidly going towards having to know digital work in order to really get a job as an artist. So, but one thing about inking digitally is paying attention to your line width when you're zoomed in. You wanna, one thing that isn't good is you may notice this is a bit sloppy, but someone's gonna view it at this distance, you know, possibly. And actual manga form, it's gonna be about that much. So that line width and everything's good if you make it too thin, because if you're zoomed up, you'll think this is possibly too thick, but it's actually thin. That's one upside to traditional work. Yeah, one size pen, and it's like that. And then you have another pen that might be more fine tip to get finer details, and they only use that for very fine details. But we have the option for so many different line thicknesses that it can get a bit confusing, and I had a lot of problems with that at first. I don't know if it was just me, but and to show some shade, it's always good to do a little bit of hatching. You know, there's so many different kinds of hatching you can learn, like this. And then, you know, doing it this way, this way, this way. And those look really refined, those look really cool. And then you have these where you can hatch like this. Those look really cool too. Of course, there's many others, you know, like the actual square hatching. And the square hatching, I'll get into a little bit. That's actually good for backgrounds. And if you fade it properly, it helps give good shading on backgrounds without using too much screen tone. Because if you screen tone the background too much and you don't screen tone the characters enough, the characters look a little too pale in comparison to the background. All right, so all right, I believe I'm ready to start doing the background here. I believe it's only, all right. You know, I'll do straight lines just to show you a more refined looking background here. Normally my backgrounds are a little bit sketchy, and I feel like it gives a little bit more of a real feel. I just like the way it looks. They're not too sketchy though. If I'm in a big rush, they obviously might be a little sketchy, but for the most part, they're normally pretty standard. And I want to try to finish this panel, finish up this whole talk. How to do like action scenes and stuff like that, or professionally with angles, speed lines, stuff like that. That will also be something in the future that I'll do for anyone who's interested, you know, based on how well this video does. And I might just do it anyways, because, you know, I know there will be some people out there that will find it interesting and helpful. Alright, I think I am ready to do the background here. Just doing some final hatch marks. Alright, there. Let's do that. And one thing for backgrounds is using the one line width really helps you be able to try and put more types of hatching or screen tones to add texture onto it to make it feel more real. And one width line work that you use for the background the plainness of it gives you that structure, and then the techniques for different for different textures. The techniques for different textures will stand out amongst those one width line variants. As you see in like Naruto a lot, like for metal, they do like this kind of thing. Yeah. Which I, been doing a little bit here and there here on this, because this is metal behind him. Now let's do this. There is, let's actually go up here. There's some wood, so it's going to be a little bit more organic. So I'm just going to do this by hand, this pen. right here, I'm working to make a fence. And I think I've showed this in one of my other streams, but I'll show you a quick way to make a fence digitally. I'm going to grab this line. Turn this off. What's going on? Ah, okay, I understand. Bring it over here. I did that so that way I can create this selection in here so it doesn't go outside these lines. And alright, so I'm on it. These lines I want to make really thick for this fence. Because I want to use something to cut out the middle of it in order to make the fence look right. So that way, you know, cuts down a lot of work. And no, there's no need to like perfectly measure it out. Yes, I could probably use some sort of fence screen tone, but I don't know, it feels much more natural and organic like this. I don't really like using screen tones for things like this that should be drawn. Ah, that's right. It's actually going to be another piece of wood right about here. Let's go to this one and let's alright. Let's go back to this one, turn on the ruler. Oh yeah, that's right. I turned down the... And after this fence, I'll be just about done here. And while I'm doing this fence, I'll look and see if there's any more comments. Music volume perfect. What's good animation app for the iPad Pro? I think it's called Autodesk, or not Autodesk, Animation Desk. It's the one that's yellow. I don't know. That's the best one I know of so far, or at least I've used. Animation Desk. Oh yeah, he said it right below that. Perfect, thanks. No problem. Alright. Looks like there's no questions as of right now. Alright, now let's get rid of that selection. Let's come over here, erase this out like that. And that looks weird, so I'm going to erase that even though no one's going to see it. But now that's what I do to create the fence effect after this is I select the layer and then I crop inwards 4 pixels and I erase. Voila. And there we go, we got a fence. Oh, darn it. Let's go up here because I actually did not do this part. I should have selected it, but it's fine. Voila, and I'm going to go around and do exactly what I said with the, I'm going to turn off the this layer so you can kind of see what it looks like. Then we'll go here and cut it out away from the character a bit here. And there, you can see it helps singles him out. I haven't screen toned anything yet, but yeah, that's my way of pretty much trying to ink as much like a professional as possible. And I'm just gonna put one more little bit of hatching here, 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 here. And yeah. Alrighty. Oh, let me go down here. Hatch that back. Show some light source. Alright. Well, that's pretty much all I got for you guys today. I hope for anyone who watches this video, it was helpful. And let me see if there's any more questions real quick. How do you keep your perspective so accurate without grids? Have you just studied perspective? Yeah, I have studied perspective a lot. And if you're talking about trying to keep these as squarish as possible, it's one of those things that just you get better at over time, over doing it more and more and more. I found that measuring things out really kills the mood and it kills the creativity aspect of it. So that's why it's always good to learn perspective anatomy and all the rules and continue to practice them. But when you go to actually draw, be a little bit more free with it, or else everything will look a little too stiff. But anyways, guys, I hope you guys liked this video. I hope this helped you. And if it did, if this is your first time in the channel, please subscribe, watch some more videos. And please subscribe, like I just said. And like always, guys, I'll see you next time.